Welcome, Dharma warrior. In this space, we walk the path of truth with steady hearts, protect what is sacred, and choose peace without abandoning strength. Breathe in presence, breathe out resistance. Let's begin.
Welcome to episode number 1. I picked a doozy of a theme today. We're going to discuss faith, hypocrisy, and appearances versus substance. So let's get to it. I want to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to faith, and that's the hypocrisy that exists across religions, cultures, and even within the same belief systems. There's judgment everywhere. Christians judging Christians, Muslims judging Muslims, Jews judging Jews. They say they're not faithful enough. They're not disciplined enough. They're not doing it the right way. And then somehow society can even take it a step further. We start ranking faith by how it looks. Certain appearances are given instant credibility, like the monk, the priest, the rabbi. Somehow, their faith is seen as higher quality, more legitimate than the average person practicing solely, quietly, privately, and imperfectly. Why is that? I've seen the same judgment in healing spaces too. When I was in rehab in 2014, I was actually asked if I really needed to be there. Because I was a functioning addict at the time, I didn't look like what people expected addiction to look like. But addiction doesn't have one face, and neither does healing. You know, my healing hasn't been pretty throughout the years. And somehow I managed to not slow down. My character didn't really change that much. I always stayed high energy. And I kept moving forward while also practicing faith and meditation privately. And because I didn't fit the mold, I often felt like I didn't belong anywhere. So let's talk about these double standards even further. Let's take, for instance, trigger warning here, a reformed addict with track marks. This is not my story, but they find God along their pathway, okay? Why is their awakening less valid just because they have the marks of their previous life? I mean, people have the right to change, to evolve. I mean, if we're stuck in a trench of what and who we're supposed to be, then that's not life. That's a perpetual state of judgment. And why is it that people who look religious, they've got crosses everywhere, for instance, they speak scripture, symbols galore, and somehow they get more grace even though their actions and their words don't align at all? We say faith is about truth, but is it? We trust symbols more than behavior. Someone can look the part and lie to your face, while someone who survived the trenches and still wears the scars of their past honestly and bravely, and somehow they get questioned more and aren't believed. You know, even taking on a simpler facet here. We do this with tattoos too. Gang tattoos are judged one way. Tribal or warrior tattoos are judged another. But both tell stories. Both represent survival, identity, and belonging. So why do we have to keep deciding whose story is acceptable? You know, I'll never forget visiting the Vatican and seeing homeless people right outside the gates in the exit. Of course, not in the entryway, at the exit. You know, an organization with so much wealth, so much power, and yet they allow God's children sleeping at the exit. I was disgusted. And that image has really stayed with me. The real issue isn't faith here. It's our lack of trust that another human being can find healing, enlightenment, or God in their own way. We are all the same, yet different. And that's how I chose and created the theme song for Dharma warriors. You know, our differences were never meant to divide us. So maybe the question isn't, does this person look faithful enough? Maybe it's, can I see their substance? Can I make room for a path that doesn't look like mine? Can I not be judgmental? And perhaps open my perception to grow and expand. Because if faith is real, it should lead to more acceptance, not less. Faith isn't worn, it's lived. Until we meet again, walk with courage, lead with compassion, and protect your peace.
different.